Hey guys, it's Mather here once again with the Endgame update video for the Scorching Ray and Flame World Trickster that was designed to set out and sort of do all fire damage over time things, including Ignite, but by this stage of the character, Ignite isn't really worth it. By the end of the last video, I put up a path of building, had a look at all my numbers and stuff, and the Ignite portion where I was using a either Firestorm or a Fireball for single target just wasn't doing fucking almost anything. Like, I'm talking, I had a million Scorching Ray DPS and my Firestorm's hitting for 50k Ignite. So it was mostly cosmetic and mostly kind of bad even because it was getting in the way of elemental equilibrium. It did hit hard enough that it would sometimes one-shot small packs of enemies, but that was hardly an issue with most of the gameplay that I had. You'll see throughout the sort of gameplay that ultimately standing still, channeling, and having a damage over time, it's pretty bad gameplay these days. The character wasn't too bad in the end, like as a whole build. I had a lot of life, decent bit of energy shield, good recovery. But the ultimate problem is the playstyle of Scorching Ray just feels kind of shit when mapping right now. Any sort of standing still and channeling in today's Path of Exile just feels kind of wrong, especially if it's attached to a damage over time. I feel like if I could have maybe doubled my damage, then it would have been just a bit better, but I was already kind of squeezing as much as I could without going full-blown Scorching Ray with some Righteous Fire and stuff like that. You can, in theory, like double my damage, but it probably lessens your sort of survivability a bit. But it increases your survivability because you kill things faster and have to worry less about enemies. So my damage was good, and it was good enough to map and clear with and all that, but for a channeling skill and for damage over time and for standing still, it just seems like it needed to be even bigger. So with that, the mapping wasn't a particularly enjoyable experience. On especially difficult maps, things that had extra damage modifiers, or maps where you had your damage reduced by a lot, or things got a lot faster. I still did all of that, and I still did get to like 91, 92, something like that. But it was mostly the single target that was the highlight, and it wasn't even amazing single target, it's just good and reliable. So I end up hitting about 1.8 million on Scorching Ray, 1.2 million on the Flame Wall, so as a combination end up about 3 mil, and there's a bit of setup time here or there, but the Flame Wall itself is just probably more safe to be clearing with most of the time. So if you just drop flame walls and run around, there's no real standing still, there's no real channeling, but it doesn't clear as well because of the limitations of its range. So you need like a spell cascade, and you need to build a bit more into it, which just doesn't, I don't know. It's a good combo of skills here, having Scorching Ray and Flame Wall. Without Flame Wall currently in the game, I think Scorching Ray would be in a very difficult spot, but since we do have Flame Wall to help sort of cover some of the gaps, it ends up being an okay combo, and it's still probably a decent starter build. I recommended this type of thing as a starter build like 6 months to a year ago, and it's probably still decent in that regard, but for higher tier mapping, like once you start getting to red maps, I think that's when it starts to fall kind of flat. So you can see single target isn't too bad, and the playstyle's okay for that. We are more of a 1v1 specialist, but it does become more of a problem once you get more enemies into the situation. So the Elder Guardians that come in with a Shaper Guardian, that sort of thing, the four ways, the Feared I couldn't do. In the end, I did clear everything else, so I did, Ubritsiri, Cortex, Chiula, Elders, Shapers, Awakener, Maven, and then I tested myself against the Feared, and it's just not particularly doable, I think. With this setup anyway, having to like channel and stand still while things are constantly on the attack against you just felt pretty damn bad. But when it's a 1v1, it's okay because it's manageable, you can dodge, you can pick your windows. That said, for like Maven and Cirrus, it's still not very good because you are ramping too much. By the time I get like maximum stacks of Scorching Ray, either Maven or Sirius is usually doing another attack or disappearing, and it's kind of frustrating. So we did take those on, but honestly, Scorching Ray not in the best spot right now, I don't think. And it kind of relies on Flame Wall as a bit of an extra crutch. I did also use Fire Trap as a additional pre-fire for burning damage and ignite, but it wasn't doing all that much in the build. So what else did I want to say? The whole feared situation was actually rather frustrating because I couldn't ever stand still, and I was basically never using Scorching Ray. I do remember after pretty much all 6 of the deaths, there was minimal Scorching Raying going on, and I was just basically running around flame walling, hoping to kill shit. It was kind of sad. In any case, I also tried out one other thing, and that was Hall of Grandmasters, and the entire thing went down pretty damn nice without incident. It was not as good as Scorching Ray used to be. Scorching Ray used to be very good for Hall of Grandmasters because it would ramp this minus fire debuff, whereas now it only gives an exposure at 8 stacks, so it's not quite as good. Since you have to get to those max stacks to really apply the good things. But as well as that, there are a couple of dudes at the end that completely shit on your playstyle these days. And as we all know, who have done some Hall of Grandmasters, it's this guy. And the Lightning Striker, I just don't think a Scorching Ray is going to be getting his damage up quick enough before he completely shits on you. So I cleared the entire thing up until this last end boss, and then I just couldn't get through him. And on plenty of characters I have and can do, on this one, it just didn't seem possible. So yeah, kind of an okay character. Overall decent, like solid build, but not particularly recommended. Channeling skills, Scorching Ray, damage over times like that, just a bit rough. Might still mess around with an Ignite build at some point this league. I don't think Ignite's going to be that bad, but yeah, that's it for the character, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.